Hey, and welcome to Refueling Base, map 10 of Doom 2. And for this look back, we're actually going way further back than we've gone before. We're actually looking at a alpha version of Doom 1 here. Hence the weird items on the floor here, and hence the weird guns and layout of the status bar at the bottom. So this is Refueling Base. Yes, this level comes all the way from the alpha version of Doom 1, and as you can see, it retains a lot of the visual kind of cues that would appear in the final level in Doom 2. The story of this level is very fascinating because it kind of shows up in the alpha here, it disappears from the beta before the release of the original Doom, and it somehow ended up as a level in Doom 2, albeit with some minor alterations to textures and such. And you can tell how early this is because I'm A, running this in DOSBox, but B, the enemies don't move, the textures aren't moving. This is a very simple, layout here. That secret's not been implemented yet, but it is marked, so obviously there was a plan to put something there. As you can see, the layout of this level is surprisingly still very much what we would see in the final level. It's kind of interesting this because a lot of Ultimate Doom levels aren't as big as this, so seeing that this level was so huge even as early as, and you can see we can't go inside the yellow door there, this early in development is kind of interesting. So we're going to head up to where the Cyber Demon normally would be here, and you can see there isn't an area where you drop down from, and obviously this room isn't big enough for a Cyber Demon. The exit rooms there have actually been changed as well, so there's two separate rooms that you have to walk through. I imagine there would have been enemies up here shooting down on you as you were making your way to the exit. Now unfortunately there was a crash there, but I have managed to get us back to this point, and as you can see, if you've played this level enough times, you'll recognize all the cues. The final level bears a striking resemblance to this level that we're seeing here. This alpha version here is very, very complete to say that it was developed so early in '93. So this is where you'd fight the Arachnotrons and all the imps and pinkies. The blue key's still here, so that's good to know. I'm curious if the secret's still here. It is. This allows us to skip between two areas of the level here. This room you'll recognize as the place where all the shotgunners and zombie men take aim at you. The secrets haven't been implemented though, so I am clicking the walls there and nothing much is happening. But you can see that, like, from the very early stage, the layout of this level was pretty much decided upon. There isn't really, other than that final room, once you go through the yellow door, there's not that much difference here. You can see as well the secret rooms that haven't been implemented. They'll appear in later versions of this level. And this room here is largely untouched. I think that this even uses the grey brick texture in the final version of this level. You can see that that's changed because in the retail version of this level, that's actually an elevator that you've got to bring down, and you've got to be quite quick about it if you want to grab the plasma rifle. But obviously there was an intention for there to be a secret there, just a very different kind of secret. And is this secret here? Yes, it is. So this is where you grab a bunch of ammo as you in this normal version of this level. And what's in here? So this is, so the raised up parts that are gone. Ah, so this is where you would have grabbed the yellow key originally. So that means we've got the yellow and blue key here. As mentioned, it's very fascinating getting to wander around this level. Like this doesn't even feel like Doom, like with the sprites here and the status bar at the bottom being so weird and different. Like, they were gonna have lives in this game. Can you imagine Doom with lives? But this is a very interesting look at this level. And even in here, even at this early point, like, this room was dark as heck. I'm not a huge fan of this room at all, but the fact that like that was always the intention. You can see here where the windows kind of look down on you, and it has the Doom 1 end level door there. So, and just so you can see it, this is what the interlevel status screen would have looked like. It's kind of crazy. Getting to experience this is actually really fun and interesting. So now we're going to take a quick dive into the beta version of this level, which is dated about 5 months before the release of Doom 2 in 1994. So what you'll notice as we make our way through the level here is that from the alpha version that we saw, there's been a number of changes, but from here to the retail release of the game, there really isn't that much changed other than a few textures. So these rooms kind of all operate in the same way. Like, there's always a pain elemental in here on ultraviolence, and this central pillar now actually comes down, which it didn't in the alpha version, but it allows us to get the chain gun, which I'm not going to say no to. It's very fascinating to me that they completely brought back a level from that early in development and largely left it unchanged for Doom 2. So as we make our way outside here, you can see that they've actually lowered the floor in the middle here, and they've raised this bit up here, so it's actually, you can't just walk across it like you did before. So it kind of adds a bit of verticality to this area, which is nice. It's always nice to see the changes like that. As we head inside here, you can kind of see on the back wall there's a few textures that are not there in the final version of the game, but the room kind of looks and plays the same as what you'd play in the retail version of Doom 2. We're going to head inside the room with the BFG here. So in here you'll encounter the Arachnotrons and the Pinkies and the Imps. This is a very busy room, but there is a nice prize of a BFG at the back of the room if you're willing to trigger the walkover puzzle. There is also 2 other ways into the room, both via secret passages, which I kind of recommend. I recommend trying to grab the blue key without fighting all these enemies. It is kind of a waste of ammo. And as you can see here, we are now basically stuck in a loop here where I've got to trigger this BFG thing here without actually dying, because those Arachnotrons are going to hit me pretty nastily there. It does raise the question of why this level didn't quite make the standard for Doom 1, but did make the standard for Doom 2. Especially considering that it was in this early, so it was clear that like early on someone had decided this level was good enough for what they wanted with Doom 2. Maybe it was too big for Ultimate Doom, because there are very few levels that match the scale of this level in Ultimate Doom, so perhaps they decided that this was a bit too big and too sprawling. You can see that they've implemented these secrets here, which unfortunately means we've got to deal with these pain elementals. So we're going to take out the Lost Souls here. So this opens up the central part here. This is where you'll get your rad suit if you want one. There's also a bunch of hit scanners who love to make their way out here. Thank you very much. I want to see what's inside that little chamber here. Yeah, there's not much in here. Bit of health, but that's not essential. So as we head inside here, you will remember this from the alpha. This is the room, in my opinion, which kind of sums up this level. It's got a lot of enemies, it's got a lot of tight spaces to fight in, but ultimately I just think it's kind of unremarkable. This room's kind of here to sort of punish players who don't sort of take out enemies, because there's just so many enemies coming out to shoot you here. And it's one of the few times in Doom 2 where they actually use the shoot to open mechanic with some of the secrets, which is pretty neat. It's important that you take out as many of these guys as you can, because they do chip away your health. Even if you have lots of armor, they will sort of work their way around and chip health off. You can use these secrets to pick up... oh god, I forgot about that. To pick up some nice health, but... so it's interesting that they moved the yellow key into this room rather than leave it where it was. Because in here, there's a good chance that most players won't even spot it unless they're actively looking in all those little spaces, which I don't think many new players to Doom 2 would do initially. So it's kind of interesting that they chose to flip the yellow key location like that. And it kind of makes that big room with the imps that we'll go into in a minute a bit redundant, to be honest. We're not going to trigger that right now. I just want to show off this secret because this is probably my favourite secret in this level. If you sneak in here, you can just grab the blue key and get out without fighting any of the arachnotrons if you really don't want to. But we're going to head to that big room we were talking about, because this is where you would have come in the alpha to get the yellow key, as we saw earlier. But this is just like one big optional area now. It's an interesting choice, that, I have to say. Because this kind of feels like it has a key in it somewhere. It just feels like with all the enemies here and all the items, this is an important part of the level, and as you kind of come to explore it, you come to realise that no, actually, this is just like a big room filled with lots of enemies. One interesting discussion though is, where would this have gone in Ultimate Doom? Would this have gone into Knee Deep in the Dead? I don't think it would have. Would it have gone into the Shores of Hell? Maybe. It's kind of... some of Shores of Hell's levels are quite big like this, so maybe it would have fit into there. I don't think this feels like a Hell level, unless they were going to make this room like Super Hell. But even in the alpha, it didn't have that going for it. So, who knows? You can see here that they changed the secret at this point, so instead of like crossing that little ravine, you have to come down here and drop the elevator. So this is where the yellow key was. Now, obviously, you know, no texture there means mirror effect, so don't pay attention to that. But you can see that the little alcoves on either side of the room have been put in at this point. Personally, I would have kept the yellow key there. Like, it just feels like a more natural spot for it. So without the amplification goggles, this room is usually pitch black, and there's a whole bunch of enemies in here. Not one of my favourite rooms, to be honest. I usually try to avoid fighting here if all possible, but I want to show you all this level, so we saw in the alpha there was actually a few imps in here, and those imps are still here, but they're now accompanied by all these other enemies. It's very remarkable to me that this level just has the same feel. Like, you play this in the alpha, and then you come and play this beta of Doom 2, and you can tell it's the same level. It has the same feel. A lot of levels go through such big changes, but this one just kind of feels like it was given a few new textures, and that was kind of it. Even in the final retail version of this level, there really isn't that much different, to be honest. So I'm going to come and do the Cyber Demon trap here now, because this is probably the thing that people remember most about this level, is the Cyber Demon that guards the exits. So we're going to grab the invulnerability, we're going to take down Cyber Boy here. Captain Rocket, if you will. You can kind of see this room kind of changed quite a lot, but the intention of it's still the same, because there's still windows overlooking the two rooms there, which the Cyber Demon shoots you through, so that's pretty nasty. for the player. The Cyber Demon can also teleport into those rooms, which makes it just 10 times worse in my opinion. But we're going to take out the Lost Souls here. Again, this is another big optional room. There's really not much you want to be doing here. So this is the secret that you saw marked, but it wasn't actually in existence yet. Or if it was, we couldn't cross through the door to get into here in the alpha. But overall, like I said, I'm not a massive fan of this level. I think it's a bit too big and sprawling. I think that one of the problems Doom 2 levels start having around this point is they start getting a bit too big and a bit too sprawling, and a lot of the levels are just mostly about kind of exploring and hoping that there's something good to find when you go secret hunting. And for me, this level, if they put this in Ultimate Doom, I think it would have been one of the weaker levels in whichever episode it landed in. But I think in Doom 2, it's actually not that bad. I think that like it falls in the middle for me. So you can see here, the two rooms still exist which you have to go into, but they've completely reworked how you do it. That said, this is one of those few examples where we can really go back and take a look at the level from its very early conception all the way through to the level that we pretty much got our hands on. The differences between the beta that you just saw and the final release of the level is very minute, only a few texture differences. And I think it's best that we dive over to the PS1 version now. So the PlayStation version of this level obviously makes stronger use of lighting because it can do. But what's kind of remarkable to me is that a level this large, there aren't really that many modifications to it to fit it onto the PlayStation. Normally what you find with big levels like this is that some part of the level goes missing, but interestingly this level is largely untouched. Even the secret here is still intact, although I would argue that, you know, this is an essential part of the level because the chain, you will need the chain gun. There isn't enough ammo on this level to deal with everything otherwise, and you don't really want to be using the pistol. But as you can see, even on the PlayStation version here, the rooms are strikingly similar to the beta version that we just saw, and there's still a lot of enemies out here as well. So this room hasn't been simplified at all. In fact, it keeps very much the same ideas that you see in the final retail release of Doom 2. So we're going to take out all these enemies here. I think one of the things I don't like about this level is that it feels like you can just run through this level the way it's been sort of laid out with the keys and everything in a very short amount of time, and a lot of this level feels kind of redundant, and it does make me wonder if like there was better key positioning and they weren't right next to each other, which they are in this version. You can pick up the yellow and blue key within a minute of each other in like 30 seconds if you really know what you're doing. I feel like a lot of this level just isn't worth exploring because a lot of it, there's a lot of enemies, there's a lot of fights like in this room here where you're basically wasting a lot of ammo to get very little in return. You can see here they've got rid of the pain elementals off this level and instead we're using cacodemons. That's a theme in Doom 2 on PlayStation. Cacodemons usually get pushed in where a lot of pain elementals are. My guess is because they don't want too many lost souls floating around this level, and obviously pain elementals can spawn in lost souls, so it kind of makes sense that they, with an already high monster count, they don't want to add to that. But this is what I mean here. You've got these secrets here, and when you go inside, for all the ammo you've just expelled, trying to get in here, you only pick up like a box of ammo and 2 shotgun shells. That's really not worth it in my opinion. It's why I never really go into that room if I can avoid it. You do have to come in here, unfortunately, and when you come in here without armour, it is a bit of a pain in the backside. I was just checking there was no one behind me there. Unfortunately, this room is a bit of a pain because you can have enemies shooting at you from way off in the distance. Enemies can sneak up behind you and take a nice chunk of your health off. It's one of those rooms where you just kind of want to get through it as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, if you want to grab that yellow key, you've got to come in here. What's interesting in this version as well is that they've changed the way that they mark out the secrets, so you probably won't notice it until you're right next. Like, so there, for example, the texture is very slightly different, whereas in the PC version there was UAC logos to indicate where you needed to shoot. But even here you can see there's a lot of these enemies just wandering around, and you kind of got to deal with them all. You can't, leaving them out in the open is just not recommended. But what it does mean is that this room is very faithful to the PC version. So if you're looking to experience this level and you were playing on PlayStation, you're getting the full experience here. We may as well do this now because there's a bunch of pinkies in here we're going to have to deal with. I don't think there's a cyber demon in this version of the level. I think it's changed out. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to just take these guys out and then I'm going to grab the blue key and then we'll probably go and have a look at what's in place of the cyber demon, I think. So yeah, you open this, you can go through to where the cyber demon normally would be. Don't think it's a cyber demon in this version though, I think it's something else. But this is kind of how I normally do this level. I'll normally sneak in behind these guys because they're not even looking and just grab the blue key and then head right back into the secret here. I won't even bother with this room, but because I want to show off this room and because I want to show how it looks in this version of the game, I think, you know, we're going to have to deal with these guys. So I've got light amplification goggles on here because normally this room is very hard to see in. Especially when you've got all those enemies that are shooting at you. We're going to sneak around, grab the BFG, and we're just going to blast our way through this. The arachnotrons are a real pain in this room, especially if you get stuck in front of one of the pinkies. We're going to take care of you. So the secret to the... I call it the room of waste because there's no real reason to come out here unless you really want the plasma rifle. But yeah, this is exactly the same as you'll find in the PC version. Again, I'm very surprised because this is a massive room, both vertically and sort of in terms of width, and it's kind of interesting that they didn't lower this room, make it small or anything. Not because, as we saw with the pits, like, they were not afraid to make a lot of the rooms in that level a lot smaller. So it's interesting which levels get sort of cut down and which ones don't. Let's see if we can do this secret here. We can. Lost soul there. So this is the third time we come into this room here, and you can see the texture at the back is fixed in this version. Going to be very careful here with the rocket launcher. The lost soul makes me nervous, so we're just going to fire across the room here. So again, this is one of my least favourite rooms because it's kind of bland, it's kind of ugly, and if you don't have the light amplification goggles, it's pretty dark. So that's one thing this level likes doing. It likes throwing in some, like, it likes putting up the darkness and kind of leaving you to deal with all that. We could go into the exit, to be honest. But there you can see. Oh, So you can see here, there's no Cyber Demon, but there is an Arachnotron. Wait, what just teleported in? Oh, so in this version, they just teleport in. They don't actually let the one up there teleport down here. But yeah, Refueling Base is not one of my favourite levels, but it's got a very interesting story, and we all got to explore that together today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this look at the alpha, beta and PS1 versions of Refueling Base. Catch you in the next video.